In the quiet of a sun-kissed morning, imagine stepping into your backyard and finding rows of thriving tomato plants, each rooted not in fancy store-bought pots, but in something as simple as recycled plastic bottles. This is where the beauty of reuse meets the genius of survival gardening, inspired by a technique seen in a YouTube garden experiment. This design lets you grow tomatoes without the daily burden of watering. It's called a bottle wick system. You take a 2-liter bottle, cut it in half, flip the top into the base, and use a strip of cotton or old cloth as a wick. Fill the bottom with water, rest the inverted top with soil and seedling, and let time do the rest. Over the days, the wick draws just enough moisture to keep the soil damp. There's no runoff, no evaporation loss, just slow, steady hydration. Even under summer's glare, your plants won't thirst. Line them along your fence or hang them from the edge of your balcony. Watch the tiny yellow flowers bloom into fruit, all from bottles once destined for the trash. The method is quiet, efficient, and perfect for busy people or those in dry zones. Want to make it even more resilient? Bury the bottles halfway into the soil or shade the water container to slow algae growth. Add crushed eggshells or banana peels to the soil to enrich it naturally. And just like that, you've turned waste into abundance. One bottle, one tomato, one small victory at a time. Sometimes the best way to grow is to enclose, to protect, to preserve what matters most. In this case, water. Imagine a pot that guards moisture like a hidden treasure, releasing it little by little, just as your tomato plant needs it. That's the secret behind sealed pot gardening. It's not a trend, it's a quiet revolution for the resourceful gardener. Start with medium-sized container, plastic, clay, or even food-grade buckets. Plant your tomato seedling into rich, airy soil. Then cover the top with a transparent lid. It could be an old salad container lid or a simple cling wrap dome. Seal the edges with clay or silicone, or simply weight it with small stones. As the sun rises, it warms the air inside, gently evaporating moisture from the soil. That vapor clings to the lid above and drips back down, a closed loop of hydration. No hose, no daily refill. Just nature doing what she does best when we step aside and let her. This method is perfect for hot regions or the forgetful gardener. But it's more than survival, it's abundance. Your tomatoes grow slowly but robustly, drinking only what they truly need. You'll notice fewer yellowing leaves, less cracking, and fruits that taste like sun and patience. Want a boost? Place a few soaked coconut husks or spongy peat moss at the bottom for even more water retention. And line the base with worm castings for slow-release nutrients. Day by day, you'll watch life bloom in a world you seal with your own hands, a tiny ecosystem of resilience and reward. In the world of resilient gardening, few things feel more empowering than knowing your plants can care for themselves. Quietly, steadily, and with little intervention, enter the wicking bucket, a humble system built on a beautiful principle that water should rise when needed, not run away. Picture this, a large bucket, often repurposed from something else, with a secret beneath the soil, a hidden pool of water, and a wick that connects life above to sustenance below. You start with a 5-gallon bucket. Drill a drainage hole just above the base to prevent overfilling. Inside, place a layer of gravel or sand for the reservoir. Above that, stretch a strip of cotton fabric. An old t-shirt works wonders. From the water layer into the soil, this cloth becomes a lifeline, drawing moisture upward as the roots demand it. Then you fill with rich soil organic compost and place your young tomato seedling in the center. As days pass and sunlight pours in, the wick keeps the soil gently moist, never soggy, never dry. No daily watering. No guilt. Each morning, you'll see new growth, greener leaves, stronger stems. The tomato knows what to do. All you've done is given it the right stage. Want to stretch the system even further? Add mulch on top to slow evaporation, or cover the bucket with reflective foil to deflect heat. If you're short on space, tuck these buckets along walls, patios, or driveways. They'll flourish quietly. This isn't just gardening. It's self-sustaining life in a bucket. Practical, efficient, and profoundly satisfying. There's a certain poetry and stillness when things grow not by force, but by balance. That's what the Kratky hydroponic method offers. A way to grow tomatoes in silence, without the hum of machines, without the buzz of electricity. Just water, air, and patience. This system is made for dry climates and for those who want to grow more with less. It begins with a container, perhaps an old storage bin, a paint bucket, or even a food-grade barrel. You fill it with a water and nutrient solution. Carefully measured, no overthinking required. On top, you float a lid. Styrofoam works beautifully, with small holes to insert net cups. In each cup, a tomato seedling takes root, nestled in rockwool or coconut husk. Below, the roots dangle into the still water, drawing nutrients as they grow. As time passes, something magical happens. The water level drops slowly as the plant drinks and transpires. And in its place, a growing air gap forms, giving the roots just enough oxygen to thrive. It's all automatic. No pump, no timer, no wires. The tomatoes rise tall and strong, fed by a reservoir that you only need to check every few weeks. It's a system of trust between you and nature, between roots and silence. If you wish, paint the containers dark to block algae, or add a drop of fish emulsion for a touch of organic richness. You can even tuck these systems along your sunny porch or windowsill. They ask for little, but give so much. This is gardening at its most minimalist and most generous, a quiet cradle where tomatoes grow on their own terms. In places where the sun burns long and water whispers away into dust, there's a shelter of glass and timber that offers hope, a greenhouse built not with money, but with memory. Reused windows, weathered doors, panels once discarded, now reborn in a framework of intention. This water-efficient greenhouse is more than a structure. It's a quiet sanctuary for your tomatoes to flourish with minimal watering, even in arid lands. The principle is simple. Trap humidity, slow evaporation, and give plants the warm hug they crave without draining the hose. Begin with a frame, old wood, leftover PVC, or even bamboo. Use clear plastic sheeting, salvage windows, or old shower doors to cover it. Ventilation is key, so make sure the hot air has a way to escape. A cracked window, a louvered opening, a top flap held open with a stick. Inside, layer the ground with straw, leaves, or mulch to lock in moisture. Place your tomato seedlings along the sunniest wall. Add a few jugs of water inside, not for watering, but to act as thermal masses, releasing warmth at night and reducing stress on the plants. Every drop matters here. The greenhouse traps morning dew and holds it close, allowing your tomatoes to feed not just from the soil, but from the air itself. It's a slow dance of warmth and condensation, of shade and survival. And as the days roll on, the vines will climb and curl, blossoms will burst, and fruit will swell, heavy and sweet with a taste of resourcefulness. This isn't just sustainable gardening. It's a story of resilience told in salvaged glass and green leaves. There's a secret beneath the soil, a silent reserve that nourishes when the world above runs dry. This is a promise of underground reservoir beds, a gardening method where wisdom is buried deep and tomatoes are free to rise without daily worry. It begins with a simple frame, wooden pallets, leftover bricks, or reused garden timbers, crafted into a sturdy raised bed. But instead of just filling it with soil, you begin from the bottom, a shallow trench lined with plastic sheeting, holding layers of gravel or crushed rock. This becomes your hidden lake, unseen, unfailing. Above it, a layer of breathable fabric, or mesh separates soil from stone. Rich, compost-laced earth follows, rising like a second skin. And then your tomato plants, rooted not in chance, but in a quiet promise of hydration from below. As the sun arcs high and summer lingers long, these underground reservoirs keep the roots moist and alive. No water is lost to surface evaporation. No soil is baked to dust. When you water deep, perhaps once a week, perhaps less. The system holds and delivers. Mulch the surface generously. Add shade-loving herbs around the edges. Let vines cascade over the sides like soft green waterfalls. And as you watch the tomatoes ripen, heavy and glowing, you'll feel the joy of a garden that sustains itself from deep beneath the surface, with care tucked into every layer. This is more than a method. It's a hidden act of kindness, buried where the roots remember, in the heart of the countryside, or even in a corner of your dry, cracked backyard. A golden solution rises. The straw bale. Humble, fragrant, and often forgotten, it becomes a cradle of growth, requiring no hose, no drip line, only time and touch. Tomato roots love the warmth, and straw bales, once conditioned, become both home and pantry, breaking down from within, feeding and hydrating the roots like nature's slow-release sponge. It begins with a bale set in place, tied firmly with twine. You water it deeply for a week, let heat, ferment, come alive. As the inside turns soft and steamy, you dig a small hole into the top and nestle in your tomato seedling. Surround it with a mix of compost and peat to anchor the start. The straw holds moisture, breathes air, and warms the roots. Rain isn't required. The bale becomes a well. Over weeks, the outside remains golden, but inside it transforms, decomposing gently, releasing heat, minerals, and water. Even in dry climates, your tomato thrives. It climbs and fruits, fed from the softness below. As harvest begins, your garden smells of earth and summer. Birds perch nearby. You don't see plastic. You don't hear pumps. Just quiet growth and rustling straw in the breeze. When the season ends, the bale becomes mulch, compost, or bedding, nothing wasted. It is a cycle completed, a story told in sun, stem, and soil-less roots. This is gardening without limits. No land, no water source, just a bale and a dream, and soon baskets of tomatoes as your reward. Above the noise of the ground, above the heat, the pests, and the clutter, there hangs a quiet miracle, a tomato garden that floats in the air, sipping water slowly, silently, through its own clever rhythm. This is the hanging, self-watering garden, part elegance, part ingenuity, and all yours. You begin with buckets, jugs, or recycle containers. Cut a hole at the bottom, large enough for a tomato seedling to dangle through. Line the base with sponge or old cloth to support the plant as it grows downward, leaves stretching like a cascade of green. Then comes the magic, the self-watering core. Insert a small reservoir inside the top of the container. It could be a cut plastic bottle, a reused food jar, and attach a wick that reaches into the soil. As the roots drink, the wick draws water from above, releasing only what's needed. No daily tending, no waste. Hang these planters under eaves, along porches, or from a garden trellis. Let gravity guide the vines and sunlight kiss every leaf evenly. With their roots secure and moisture constant, the tomatoes grow steadily, plump, protected, suspended in quiet beauty. And as the weeks pass, your space changes. Walls bloom, balconies transform. You don't need acres, just air, water, and heart. For extra hydration, add crushed leaves or coconut husk into the soil. To attract bees in small spaces, hang a little herb pot beside the tomato. Basil and thyme do wonders. This garden doesn't just grow. It floats, it dances, it whispers to the sky. In the places where rain is rare and the earth forgets how to stay soft, there's a quiet miracle hiding just beneath the roots, a crystal that holds the memory of water, hydrogel. These tiny beads, almost invisible when dry, swell into gentle pillows of moisture when soaked. Tucked into the soil, they become reservoirs that your tomato plants can sip from drop by drop, day by day, even when the surface lies parched and sun-scorched. To use them, you begin with a dry patch of earth, one that might have been dismissed before. Mix the hydrogel crystals into the planting hole, about 1 teaspoon per seedling, and hydrate the soil once, deeply. As the roots grow, they find these hidden wells and never thirst again. The tomato plants respond with grace. No leaf curls in protest. No stems slump at noon. Even in blazing heat, the plants stay proud, green, and full of promise. This method is quiet, yet effective. Perfect for those who travel, forget, or simply live under an unforgiving sun. Hydrogel is safe, biodegradable, and lasting. It holds water for weeks. It turns your garden into a reservoir in disguise. Add a layer of mulch on top to complete the shield. Surround your tomatoes with herbs or flowers that enjoy the same dry kindness: calendula, oregano, marigold. In time, your garden doesn't just survive drought, it defies it. This is not magic. It is mindful gardening, a whisper of water held in crystal form, released only when the plant truly needs it. The kind of care that leaves no drop wasted and no tomato wanting. Sometimes the best inventions are born not in labs, but in quiet backyard corners where water is scarce and creativity flows stronger than any tap. The upside-down bottle drip system is one such humble brilliance. It begins with a simple plastic bottle, one that once held soda, now repurposed with purpose. Fill it with water. Carefully pierce a tiny hole near the cap using a hot needle or a fine nail. Then invert the bottle and bury the neck into the soil right beside the tomato stem. The pressure of the earth holds it in place, and gravity does the rest. Drop by drop, the bottle releases its contents into thirsty soil, not in a rush, but in a rhythm. Slow, predictable, kind. Your tomato roots receive moisture in just the right amount, right where they need it, without runoff or waste. Even in dry spells or under scorching sun, the soil stays cool and quietly damp beneath the surface. There's no guesswork, no stress, just consistency, a quality tomatoes adore. You can adjust the speed of the drip with smaller or larger holes. Want a smarter version? Use a 2-bottle system, one as a reservoir, one as a delivery tube. Or freeze water in the bottle before planting it, allowing ultra-slow melt irrigation during heat waves. Line several along your garden rows. Use bottles of different sizes. Let each tomato plant have its own silent guardian. And as the vines begin to stretch and swell with fruit, know this: you've turned waste into water and water into life, one bottle at a time. In a forgotten corner of the yard, where rusted drums once stood idle, a new kind of garden rises. Warm, rich, and teeming with life from the inside out. This is a compost drum method, a container of layers and transformation. It begins with an old plastic barrel or oil drum. You cut the top, drill small drainage holes near the bottom, and then, like building a cake, you start a layer. First, a bed of twigs or dry leaves for air. Then kitchen scraps, banana peels, coffee grounds, wilted greens. Next, compost or aged manure. Finally, a thick cap of good garden soil. At the very top, you plant your tomato seedling. And then you wait. But something remarkable begins inside. The inner layers heat up gently, breaking down in a slow burn. Moisture is released, warmth rises, and nutrients seep upward. It becomes a living column, self-watering, self-feeding. No pumps, no hoses, no worry. The tomato grows with vigor, Its roots reach deep into a buffet of minerals and moisture. Leaves shine with vitality. Flowers appear, then fruit, all from within the quiet drum. You may never need to water it, or perhaps just once during long heat. The compost takes care of it, cradling and feeding in rhythm with nature. Want to take it further? Add a lid with small air holes to protect from pests, or drill side openings and grow herbs along the barrel's body. With each season, the drum renews itself. When it breaks down fully, it becomes soil for the ground, life from waste, again and again. This isn't just gardening, it's resurrection. Buried kitchen scraps reborn as tomatoes in your hands. In cities where space is precious and balconies bloom more dreams and flowers, a vertical tomato garden rises like a promise. Slender, elegant, and overflowing with flavor. This is gardening that climbs. It doesn't ask for soil-rich fields or long rows. Just a wall, a pole, a frame, and the will to grow upward. Cherry tomatoes, with their compact roots and prolific fruit, thrive in this arrangement. Start with recycled bottles, stack pots, or a length of PVC pipe. Cut holes at intervals for planting, and insert a thin layer of cocoa peat or compost-rich soil into each space. To keep the system moist without waste, install a slow drip tube or insert small water-absorbing gel balls. Gravity does the rest. As you water the top, moisture seeps down gently through every level, feeding each plant in turn. Every morning, the wall comes alive, green with leaf, dotted with gold and red fruit. You reach out from your window, twist the stem, and there it is, sweetness, warm from the sun. This method is more than efficient. It's poetic. The garden that fits into the space between laundry lines and morning coffee, between sky and pavement. Add basil or mint in the lower tiers. Hang a mirror behind the wall to amplify the light. Paint the containers soft pastels to make joy bloom with every glance. And when harvest day comes, your hands may be full, not just of tomatoes, but of quiet pride. In the vertical garden, space doesn't limit. It lifts. It transforms scarcity into abundance, drop by drop, layer by layer. In the rhythm of decay, there is rebirth. And in the heart of moist compost, there lives a reservoir, rich, quiet, and always giving. Compost isn't just fertilizer. When prepared and layered right, it becomes a living sponge, locking in moisture, feeding roots, and holding the earth's breath long after the hose is run dry. Begin with a blend of kitchen scraps, grass clippings, wilted greens, and aged manure. Let them mingle, heat, and rest. In time, they become dark, crumbly soil, full of life, warmth, and dampness. The kind that clings to your fingers and carries the scent of thunderclouds. To grow tomatoes with this method, dig a generous basin and line the bottom with this moist compost. Add a layer of dry leaves or straw on top, and plant your seedling above. The roots will dive deep, finding both food and water tucked into the earth. Even when the sun bears down, the compost releases its treasure slowly. No daily watering, no parched mornings, just gentle, patient growth. You'll see in the leaves, full and green. In the stems, sturdy and confident. In the fruit, sweet, plump, and alive with a taste of natural balance. Want to go further? Bury a small compost pocket near each plant mid-season, or blend in slow-release coffee grounds for an extra burst of energy. This is gardening that listens, that trusts what the soil already knows, that when the earth is rich, water lingers. With moist compost as your ally, every tomato becomes a quiet testament to decay, to renewal, and to the beauty of growth that needs so little to give so much. Beneath the surface of dry, thirsty soil lies forgotten wisdom, the earth's own shelter. In many ancient gardens, people dug small pits instead of building high. They understood that in sun-baked lands, the coolness below preserved life. This method is beautifully simple. You dig a shallow hole, wide enough to give your tomatoes space to breathe. At the base, you add a touch of compost or moist soil. Then gently you plant. No raised bed, no pots, just the open ground, hollowed with care. But here lies the secret: a generous mulch. Dry leaves, rice husks with shavings or straw. Layer it thickly over the top. This natural blanket guards the moisture inside, blocking the sun's hunger and keeping the soil cool. Each morning, even after heat waves, you'll reach in and find dampness where others find dust. The mulch slowly breaks down, feeding the plant as it protects it. And the tomato nestled below stretches its roots deeper into the earth's memory. Watering becomes rare, maybe once a week, maybe not even that. This method works especially well on slopeland or areas prone to wind. The pitch shields the stem, while the mulch softens each drop of rain, each step a time. For an extra boost, dig a second mini pit nearby and bury kitchen scraps. As they break down, they feed silently from below. And when harvest time comes, you'll pick fruit from a garden that never looked modern, but always knew what it was doing, in a world racing upward. Sometimes the answer is to go a little deeper, quietly, wisely, and close to the earth. In the stillness of early morning, there's a quiet rhythm flowing through the garden, not from machines, but from height and intention. Gravity-fed irrigation is simplicity elevated, a soft answer to drought and busy lives. You won't need electricity, just a container, a reused water jug, an old paint bucket, anything clean. Place above the level of your tomato beds. The higher it sits, the steadier the drip. Attach a thin hose or repurpose for a line at the bottom. Guide it gently to your tomato plant. Poke a pinhole near the roots, just one. When the water is released, it travels downward, pulled by the earth itself. No noise, no waste, just drops, space and time like breath. With the lid on, the container lasts days. With a filter at the intake, clogs rarely happen. You can add compost tea, diluted fish emulsion, or just clean rainwater. The flow continues as long as there's gravity, and gravity, like a faithful friend, never leaves. This method is especially powerful in slope gardens or for those who harvest water from roofs. Build a simple wooden stand or suspend the bottle from a tree. The pressure is gentle enough not to erode soil, but steady enough to hydrate deeply. Your tomatoes will respond. With calm growth, dark green leaves, and steady fruiting, you'll notice less leaf curl, fewer stress cracks, and a garden that seems to care for itself. In a time where everything demands effort, here's a design that leans into nature's law. Quiet, constant, and entirely free. Because sometimes the smartest move is simply to rise above. When rain is rare and winds whisper thirst, sometimes the answer lies in a quiet shelter, a dome of light and breath. A plastic tent, no taller than your knee, no thicker than a bag, but wise enough to hold the sky. This is a mini greenhouse method, and it needs so little to give so much. Start with clear plastic sheeting, or cut the bottoms of old bottles and jugs. Fashion a small enclosure over each tomato seedling, anchoring the edges with stones or stakes. Leave a small vent for air, and then let nature begin. Inside this tent, the warmth builds softly. Dew condenses on the inner walls each morning, trickling back to the roots before noon. The plant, bathed in its own breath, grows strong, steady, and sure. You won't need to water often, perhaps not at all for days. The cycle sustains itself, closed loop, quiet, and beautiful. The clear walls protect from wind, pests, and scorching rays, but they also cradle, creating a little world where the tomato feels safe to grow. You'll notice fewer stress signs, faster flowering, and a piece that hovers gently over each plant. You can adapt the tent size as your tomato grows. Switch from small domes to tunnel-shaped covers using wire and old plastic wrap. Or double layer the tent with bubble wrap for colder nights. When the first fruit turns red, you'll peel back the cover, not as a gardener breaking in, but as someone releasing something lovingly grown. This is gardening in its purest form. A shelter, a rhythm, a drop caught before it's lost. Imagine a pot that remembers to water your plant, not with electronics, not with timers, but with cloth and gravity. That's the magic of auto-wick tomato pods, where tradition meets gentle innovation. This system is made for those just starting, no pipes, no guessing, just a quiet mechanism that whispers to the roots, "I've got you." Begin with any large pot, clay, plastic, or upcycled tin. Inside, build a hidden base layer, a smaller pot or plastic container with water. Place within or beneath the main pot. A thick cloth or old towel strip becomes the wick, running from the water up into the soil, always moist, always ready. You fill the soil gently, planting your tomato in the center. The wick feeds moisture slowly as the plant needs it, not more. There are no puddles, no dry cracks, just steady balance. This setup is perfect for balconies, rooftops, and tight corners where space is sacred. Your tomatoes will flourish, their leaves firm, their fruit sweet and uniform. And you'll relax. Add a mulch cap to the pot for extra water retention. Paint the pot soft white to reflect heat. Place a saucer below for any runoff. Though you may never see a drop wasted, this is more than just convenience. It's a kind system, one that listens to the plant, not overpowers it. A partnership between water and root, guided by cloth and care. Even when you forget to water, the pot remembers. Even when life gets too full, the wick keeps things flowing. For the beginner, this is a gentle way to begin. And for the seasoned gardener, a humble return to things that just work. High above the city noise, where balconies bloom in concrete jungles, a quiet garden waits in simple plastic buckets. No faucet, no daily ritual, yet life thrives. These balcony tomato buckets are more than containers. They're mini ecosystems, engineered to give just enough, never too much. And the best part? They water themselves. Start with a strong bucket, repurposed paint pail, food-grade plastic, anything clean. At the base, insert a smaller container or a cup with holes, creating a reservoir. Add a strip of cloth or sponge as a wick, running from the water chamber to the soil above. Layer in compost-rich earth, and place your tomato seedling at the center. Fill the lower reservoir with water just once, and let gravity, tension, and time take care of the rest. Even as the balcony bakes in noon sun, the moisture rises steadily. No pooling, no rot, just slow, perfect hydration. Your tomato leaves will remain perky, even in heat waves. Fruits will swell, skin uncracked, thanks to the balance below. You can personalize the buckets, paint them with joy, decorate them with children, or stack them in shelves. Add a companion basil in the corners to keep pests at bay. And every morning, as you sip coffee and greet the sky, you'll see life unfolding at your feet. Tomatoes nodding gently in the wind as if to say, "We're okay, we're cared for." In these buckets, care lives in stillness. Water waits without rushing. Growth happens in the background, steady, sweet, and sure. Where some see junk, others see potential. That rusted old refrigerator leaning in the corner, its door unhinged, shelves long forgotten, could be the coolest tomato bed you'll ever build. A fridge is naturally insulated. It keeps cool what's inside. And when turned on its back, it becomes a deep container with walls strong enough to hold life, moisture, soil, and dreams. Start by cleaning it out. Remove any plastic liners that won't drain, but keep the solid shell. Drill a small hole near the bottom side for overflow, and fill the base with gravel or sand. This will act as your water reservoir. Place a breathable cloth or burlap over gravel. Then pour in rich soil mixed with compost. You can add a vertical tube from the surface to the bottom for easy water refills. A funnel or old pipe works perfectly. Plant your tomatoes on top. 1, 2, maybe more. The fridge is wide. The roots will stretch down toward the steady moisture below, while the soil stays cool thanks to the fridge's original purpose. Paint the outside if you like. Add wheels to move it into sunlight. Surround it with other upcycled containers. A garden made from yesterday's leftovers. Even in long dry spells, you won't need to water daily. The insulation holds the water, the depth protects the roots, and the structure, once forgotten, becomes something generous again. This is what happens when reuse meets nature. Tomatoes rise from metal and memory, and your garden grows with both heart and humor. Sometimes innovation lies not in complexity, but in softness, in a pillow tucked beneath the roots, holding just enough to keep life flowing. This is the idea behind the DIY water pillow garden, an invention born of need, shaped by imagination. You begin with 2 sheets of plastic, thick, food grade, or painter's tarp. Using a clothes iron or heat sealer, you bond the edges, leaving a small gap. Through this opening, you fill the pouch with water. It doesn't need to be heavy, just full enough to rest like a hidden reservoir below the plant. Seal the gap tight. Now, dig a shallow space beneath where your tomato will grow and place the pillow there. Poke several micro holes on the upper side of the pouch using a needle, just enough to let the water seep slowly into surrounding soil. Place your tomato seedling above, fill in the earth, and press gently. The roots will reach downward, drawn by the moisture they sense beneath. You won't need to water for days, sometimes even weeks. The pillow does what its name suggests. It supports gently, giving without force, lasting through heat and wind. As your tomatoes rise, strong, steady, unbothered by dry skies, you'll notice something else. Freedom. No hoses, no timers, just a little thought, sealed and buried, doing its work quietly. Add mulch on top to maximize efficiency. Wrap the pillow in old cloth to slow sun heating. Plant herbs nearby that also thrive in soft, consistent dampness. Parsley, oregano, chives. This is gardening with comfort in mind, not just for you, but for the plant itself. Because sometimes, even tomatoes deserve a place to rest their roots.